This is my 20 reasons why Vince McMahon and the WWE sucks. While the WWE has improved from while the WWE has improved a little bit, the company and Vince McMahon still sucks. I hate Vince McMahon. And please do not post any comments telling me he is brilliant. He is not, which I'm going to explain in this video. And I will also be giving burials and rants to Triple H and John Cena next time. But right now, Vince McMahon. The very first reason I hate Vince McMahon is that he killed wrestling. He killed wrestling by admitting wrestling was fake to get out of paying some kind of tax. I think it was the athletic commission fees. But he admitted wrestling was fake, which nowadays, as an adult, and even back when I was a teenager, kind of makes wrestling hard to get into now. Kind of makes wrestling hard to get into and enjoy, cause he admitted the outcomes of he admitted the outcomes are predetermined. So that's hard to get invested in the storyline, characters, and matches. And that drove away lots of the hardcore wrestling fans, so which means WWE is the top promotion and no other promotion can become popular enough to touch it because nobody wants to touch professional wrestling because of what Vince McMahon's product has done. So number one, um, admitting wrestling was fake. Number two, forcing wrestlers to travel to be on the road, to travel and wrestle with injuries, wrestle with pain, wrestle with pain. I don't know how 700 days a year. I don't know how long they're on the road, but I remember being a long number of days they're on the road wrestling. And let me show you the problem I have with this. The wrestler's health, marriage issues, marriage and families issues, that's secondary. That's secondary. But here's the first problem I have with the road schedule. When people watch professional wrestling, and when I watch professional wrestling, and I get this in TNA, Indies, other promotions like WCW and old promotions, but I don't get this in WWE. When I see these guys, when I see these guys get in the ring and wrestle, I want them to go all out. I want the fight to be as realistic and exciting as possible on WWE now, especially now. This has been actually ever since WWE. This has been ever since Vince McMahon took over in WWE. Ever since Vince McMahon Jr. has taken over his father's business, the fights look incredibly fake and rehearsed. It looks like you're watching a Disney stunt show, not a professional wrestling match or fight. Um, the obvious fakery, and that doesn't matter too much because it's more about storytelling than actual moves. But when you watch these other promotions and when you watch MMA and boxing, you see these guys killing each other in the ring, literally killing each other in the ring. It's hard to go. It's hard to come back to this. It's hard to come back to this. And once again, this has driven away the masses. This has driven away the masses. Not only admitting wrestling was fake, but not even trying to make it look real. So that's the next problem I want to man. Now the second problem. I said I was going to get to the wrestlers' health and stuff. See, I do feel sorry for the wrestlers who die and the wrestlers who get injured and can't see their families, so their marriages go to crap. They end up they're divorcing their own wives and stuff. But I can't feel sorry for that. The reason I can't is because if these guys won't stand up for themselves like CM Punk did and eventually take your ball and go home, or not show up at work, decide not to show up at work, or stand up to Vince McMahon whenever these media people come down on him. If you're gonna continuously lie and defend what Vince McMahon does, I can't sympathize with you. So that's why I really don't care too much about the wrestler's health and marital problems. It's sad, but if you can't do anything about it, and you won't do anything about it, I can't do nothing for you. Um, the next reason, the next problem, the next problem I have with Vince McMahon is because of the road schedule. You drove The Rock, you drove Stone Cold Steve Austin, you drove Brock Lesnar, and you drove Bill Goldberg and Bobby Lashley out of your company because of the road schedule. If they didn't have to travel on the road, most of these wrestlers would stay. Even RVD left because of this. But most of these wrestlers would stay in WWE full time for life if you didn't have to put everyone on the road every year. You had to give Brock Lesnar a special schedule for him to come back. If he didn't have a road schedule, he'd probably be at every Raw and every pay-per-view. And once again, driving these guys out, once again, drove away the hardcore fan base and drove away the professional wrestling business, leaving us with Triple H, Batista, Randy Orton, and John Cena. John Cena, who I like Randy Orton. Randy Orton is my favorite of that group, but these guys and you are like the killers of wrestling. The ratings went downhill when it was Triple H, Cena, and Orton. When you went to that. So yes, driving out all the good wrestlers. Driving out all the good wrestlers. Next, politics. Constantly burying your own talent. Constantly burying your own talent so no one will get bigger than the WWE, and constantly pushing, constantly leaving Triple H and John Cena, letting Triple H and John Cena ruin your company, constantly putting these guys in the spot because you know Hollywood would never really want these guys full time. Their life is wrestling, so these guys constantly get the spot and constantly get featured on television. All the other talents can't really advance to the top. They get buried. They get buried. They get buried, and you just bury them, and from what you just sabotage and bury them. Don't even give them a chance to get over. Take one of my favorite wrestlers, Heath Slater. This guy could have been a Diamond Dallas Page and Edge. I think he's better than Edge as a wrestler, not as a superstar, but as a wrestler. I think he's better than Edge. This guy could have been a Diamond Dallas Page, Edge type guy, Chris Jericho type guy, but instead you made him some dumb hillbilly redneck jobber, having him lose the Hornswoggle. These embarrassing matches, having him get squashed by legends, putting him in 3MMB, and then one night where you had him turn face to face Rusev, the people are behind him. What do? You have him be a heel and feud with a gator and feud with an alligator. Doing this PG comedy stuff. Then misusing Justin Gabriel, pretty much burying the entire Nexus with the exception of Wade Barrett, who probably should have been buried the most because he sucks. Outside of the Nexus, outside of the entire Nexus storyline, Wade Barrett sucks. Not pushing Justin Gabriel. So happy he's now gonna be featured in Global Force Wrestling. What's his name? Yes, burying your young talent. Next, ruining the invasion angle. I was a huge fan of WWE. I was a huge fan of WCW, WWE, and ECW. There was one good thing that happened from WCW and ECW going out of business and being bought out, was that we got to see the WCW wrestlers take on the WWE wrestlers. Now, while I did enjoy the invasion angle, it's better than anything we get today. The message, instead of giving the fans what they want, no, you would still use this as an opportunity to make your wrestlers look better. You buried the crap out of Diamond Dallas Page with this stupid stalker angle with Undertaker and with Undertaker. And I hated that because at that time I still believe wrestling was real, but that just made it look so unbelievably fake. Well, why would he go after Undertaker's wife when his wife Kimberly Page was much hotter? Garbage. Um, next, what else? Oh yes, Owen Hart, man, Owen Hart. Now it was Vince Russo who wrote the whole Blue Blazers storyline. But Vince McMahon, you were supposed to be the filter to Russo's crap, so some of his stuff couldn't make it on screen. And Owen Hart, the Blue Blazer, there was no need for that entire gimmick. It was cool in the 80s because nobody knew who the Blue Blazer was. This was the 90s. Everybody knows who Owen Hart is. And just Owen Hart's career after the um Owen Hart's career out Owen Hart's career in the Attitude Era, while I did enjoy his tag team with Jeff Jarrett and several matches he had, his whole career was garbage. His whole career in the Attitude Era was garbage. And then you had then of course so instead of telling Russo this wasn't a good idea, then here's what I hate. Owen Hart, when he did the stunt, he had an accident and fell on his face. He survived this one. But then of course, that wasn't good enough. No, for Vince McMahon to learn that this was stupid, this whole thing was not a good idea. Owen Hart had to fall at the Kemper Arena to his death for Vince McMahon to learn that this was stupid. Then the attitude he just had when all the promoters are asking him about this, saying that oh they don't work in this company, so they don't really understand what was going on. But what was even worse than that, which I didn't even understand at the time, was instead of refunding the people and giving them their money, you chose to continue the show. You were shoving people out there, forcing them to wrestle. After these guys just saw a guy fall and die on TV, these guys just saw a guy fall and die. You're forcing these guys out there to wrestle and compete and compete when even worse things, even worse injuries could happen because of the mind state these guys had to be in. F you. And I'm happy nobody was hurt, man. But F you. Um. Um. Yeah. Hate your fucking company. Next was Oh yes. These two things that forever kill wrestling: the deaths of Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. The deaths of Eddie Guerrero. Let's start off with Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero, of course, in 2001, JR did the right thing and released Eddie Guerrero. His drug problems were way out of control, and yes, he was an embarrassment and a disgrace to the locker room. So JR did and sent a bad message to the locker room. So JR did the right thing and fired Eddie Guerrero. JR did the right thing and fired Eddie Guerrero. Now Eddie Guerrero, of course, did some independent shows like Ring of Honor, IWA Mid South, wrestled for the Upstart World Wrestling All Stars promotion, and cleaned his act, got his act together, and then came back to the WWE. And here's the problem I have with that, because Vince McMahon looks like a good guy for doing this, but he really isn't. He was scum for doing this. He allows Eddie Guerrero to come back to the WWE. But of course, Eddie Guerrero wants to become the World Heavyweight Champion, wants to main event. To main event, he has to inject himself. Eddie Guerrero, of course, had to bulk up, so he had to start using steroids and painkillers because once again he's back on the road. So screw Vince McMahon for bringing Eddie Guerrero back, but not cleaning up your company. It was still the larger than life steroid freaks, the roided up image at that time, and of course, yeah, Vince McMahon didn't force those guys. Vince McMahon didn't truly force these guys to take steroids and drugs and stuff, and performance enhancing drugs and stuff, anything like that. But his schedule, and and they had to if they wanted to. But they had to if they wanted to be main eventers. Wanted to be main eventers, and of course, the steroids, the painkillers, and the intense road schedule took Eddie Guerrero's life. Eddie Guerrero, like Kurt Angle said, died of exhaustion. And Chris Benoit, which I'm about to get to in a minute, would have died of the same thing had he not killed his wife and kid. But before I get to Chris Benoit, then what's worse, oh, it's bad enough he's dead, but you have the nerve, you had the audacity to use his death in a storyline. You had the nerve to exploit Eddie Guerrero's death in a storyline. Next is Chris Benoit. Of course, Eddie Guerrero's death visibly affected Chris Benoit. You can see Chris Benoit openly weeping on television at the tribute show. Once again, here's the problem. First off, it's Chris Benoit's fault and it's Vince's fault too. Of course, it's Vince's fault for once again. If they wanted to be main eventers, they had to bulk up. They have to have the roided up look. So of course, Chris Benoit used steroids and had a huge drug problem, as his sister Loretta Benoit revealed. That was not revealed on the documentary, the CNN documentary on professional wrestling. What really goes on there? So, Chris Benoit, the combination of roids, the loss of Eddie Guerrero, drugs, and problems with his wife, the road schedule, problems with his wife, caused him to kill his wife, and then he felt sorry for himself and then killed his kid. Then killed his kid and took his own life. If Chris Benoit would not have died, according to his sister Loretta Benoit, if Chris Benoit would have died due to an enlarged heart, just like Eddie Guerrero, And here's the part that pisses me off. Here's where it's Vince's fault. Besides, putting the pressure on Benoit and them to take steroids, to get the roided up look to become main eventers, and having him travel weekly. His problem I have with Vince. You can save MVPs in Edge's life. Vince McMahon told Edge to go get his neck looked at, and of course Edge had to retire. Now it sucks Edge had to retire, but I'd rather him be retired than be severely injured or dead. MVP. MVP had a disease called Wolff-Parkinson syndrome, something like that, and it can go fatal if it's not treated. Vince McMahon can tell MVP to go get it treated, but while Chris Benoit was doing all those headbutts and was wrestling this intense schedule, you didn't go tell him to go get his head examined, to go get his heart looked at, to go get his heart looked at. Throughout all that time, you couldn't tell him that, but you can save MVP and Edge. I will always hate him for that. And I wish I understood better when I was a kid what really goes on in that company. Next, sabotaging CM Punk during the Summer of Punk storyline. The Rock coming back and the Summer of Punk storyline was some of the best things to happen in WWE in a while. And you sabotage that just to make John Cena look good, and the product became even more PG and garbage in 2012, man. Then so yes, sabotaging the Summer of Punk. Yes, next, releasing Chris Hero, because he wasn't his body, because he was fat, when Chris Hero's always looked that way, because Chris Hero was he had a pot belly, when he's always looked that way. He's always, because he didn't have abs like Cena and them. Releasing Chris Hero. releasing Chris Hero. Yeah, oh yes, and now the product itself. So much stuff. Oh yes, ruining the careers of Cody, Ted DiBiase Jr. Yeah, Cody Rhodes is, my opinion, is doing okay now with the Stardust gimmick, but they've been ruining him since 2008. First of all, they turned him heel. They turned him, even though he was getting over as a face, they turned him heel and put him in a stable with Ted DiBiase and Randy Orton called The Legacy, which this stable did nothing. Randy Orton was already established at this point. What was the point of really establishing Randy Orton? All Randy Orton did was bury these two, and these two languished in the mid card for a while, and that's all that's really happened. Um, so yes, ruining Cody Rhodes and what's his name? Oh yes, ruining Ken Doane. Now Ken Doane said it was Cena who messed up his push, but they still could have pushed him. They on the SmackDown brand, they could have pushed they still could have pushed him, ruining Kenny Dykstra. That's Ken Doane. Kenny Dykstra ruining his career, releasing him. Um, Making Raw 3 hours, making it really hard to watch, man. Even if it's good, the fact that it's just 3 hours makes it hard to watch. Overexposure of the WWE product. The WWE film studios suck. The WWE network also sucks. The WWE network also sucks. All this stuff we can watch on YouTube and various streaming sites, and you trying to charge us and make us watch all this garbage on a network, man. These garbage pay-per-views and stuff on a network. Linda Senate campaign. Enough said. Um, Bashing your fans, bashing your fans, and bashing your fans, and it's funny now. Now you have to, those same fans you bash, you have to cater those fans. Oh, that's right, cause you alienated the casual goers. All you have is the hardcore WWE fans and the underground indie pro resu and lucha libre fans to watch your crappy product. That's all you have now. Those same fans you just bashed, you have to rely on them now by having all these Ring of Honor people, indie people on screen. Oh yes, WWE NXT, one of the worst shows, one of the blandest and worst shows I've ever watched. The production is cool, but the show itself is bland and absolutely boring. Some of the wrestlers there are cool, but the show is absolutely boring. And making veterans like Xavier Woods, Consequences Creed on the independent circuit in TNA, making them start on that show when they've already learned how to wrestle, have a character, making them start on that, changing their names, making them wrestle on that crappy show, then bringing them to the roster with an even crappier gimmick. Speaking of crappy gimmicks, The New Day. The New Day sucks. The wrestlers are cool, but their gimmick is garbage. Gimmick is garbage. Um, um, so, yeah, these are several reasons why Vince McMahon sucks. I think he sucks. I think he's old, senile. He was never good. He was always lucky. He was always lucky. He was always lucky to have people like have top guys like Hogan and Hart, top guys like Hulk Hogan, what's his name? Guys like Vince Russo writing his shows, because Lord knows him and the creative team can't come up with a good idea to save their lives. I don't think I can get WWE back the way it was, but I think I can book a better shows than half of these people, than half of the people in what's his name. Oh yes, the Authority storyline sucks, man. I like Seth Rollins and Kane, but the Authority storyline is boring. Well, it's not boring, but Triple H and Stephanie are, and the fact they're still on TV. Oh yes, burying Sting at WrestleMania. You can put over burying Sting and featuring The Rock and Ronda Rousey, MMA fighter Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. You can put over you can put over your competition Hollywood, which is Hollywood and The Rock, and Ronda Rousey, which is the UFC, but you can't put over WCW, which is dead, which is dead. So yeah, Vince McMahon sucks. He's killed wrestling. My opinion, wrestling sucks today. I don't like a giant monopoly and several underground and international promotions that are not a threat to WWE. And I'm sick of the fans, the logic now. Oh, since these promotions are not as big as WWE and they don't have the same fan base, a wrestler who wrestles on the independent circuit internationally will never be truly known, will never be known because they don't wrestle for WWE. And in order to become known, they have to sign through WWE. And this is why I absolutely hate wrestling now. I may do a while I can't why I hate wrestling video in the future, but right now this was my rant on Vince McMahon and the WWE. All right, Doug out.